So before we talk about the very ugly duckling story, so the very ugly duckling is one of the example in which the grand narrative uh, of a fairy tale is deconstructed. Deconstructed. Okay. The word deconstructed or deconstruction is from the word construction. Instead of being reconstruct, we use deconstruct. So what really de here means is to construct something which kind of having the similarity in the what in the part of it, but the concept is different. So in the story of very ugly duckling, the real story of really ugly duckling. In that story, we still have the same character. We have the character of duckling, of the sister and the mother, and the family of the duckling, and the concept that duckling is so ugly in the beginning. But the author deconstruct the end. Why the author needs to deconstruct the end? Because it's not just for fun, but because the author looking back the reality, the comparison of the reality and what is called the grand narrative of the fairy tale doesn't seem really compatible in some case, even though there is a space for something to be compatible, but mostly it's not. As I said before, it's like the possibility for a young lady who live very poor with a stepmother can exist in the world, and the end of the suffering, the poverty of the girl will end because of meeting Prince Charming is still possible to happen. But look the possibility, and what is another possibility for it? Yes, it's not like that, right? So therefore, in another story, in Stinky Cheeseman and Other Fairly Stupid Tale, we have the story of, oh shit, I forgot the title. It's the princess with the pea bin. What you call it? The fairy tale where the princess came to the kingdom of the prince, and the king and the queen want to prove that if he is the the princess, the having a beautiful heart, who will marry their son, right? So in the grand narrative of the fairy tale, cerita princess dan kacang pi itu kan ceritanya. So the story was, there was once upon a time, in a far, far away kingdom, the king and the queen are looking for the correct princess to be the wife of the prince. Therefore, they make a kind of sayembara to find. So one day, one princess come to the kingdom, and to prove that she is the real princess that will be the future queen in the kingdom. So the queen asked the princess to sleep on the layer bed with a very small pea under the bed. If in the morning the princess feels something pain on their back because of the bean, the very small bean laid under thousands layer of their bed, so this is the correct queen. Do you think it's possible? A bean after layers of bed Who care, So there, the author of Stinky Cheeseman are the very stupid tale. Instead of putting the bean under the layered 1,000-layered bed, they make that the queen put the bowling ball under the bed. It makes more sense, right? Kalau ada bowling di bawah kasurmu, kamu kerasa nggak sih? Kerasa, ha? Coba kalau ada kacang kedelai, mana ada rasa? So it makes the postmodernism story closer to our reality, I think. That's why when we previously Rizvi said the story is kind of weird. It's weird. Why? Because you have been, what you call it, you have been I want to say brainwashed, but it doesn't seem like a very good word for you, but let me use that word. You have been brainwashed by that the fairy tale must be like what you expect as a grand narrative. So that's why when you find the story in Shrek or in Stinky Cheeseman, you feel like, oh God, this is weird, right? But let's reread and rethink. I think it's closer to our life instead of the grand narrative of the fairy tale. Okay, so sampai mana sih tadi kita di slide share-nya? Here we go. Yeah, we talk about grand narrative, right? Next, postmodernism take pleasure in playing with convention, pointing out nature and how everything is construction. Yeah, so they like to play with convention. What is convention? Convention is happily ever after, Princess Charming, but they like to play with it, right? I think we have covered this slide already. Oh. Nah, so modernism believed that the lives of people would improve thanks to science and a word based on a logic, right? It was a time of optimism and carried over from Victorian era through Edwardian era and right after 1940s. So see the structure thanks to science, like this machine thanks to science. So we cannot deny this, then we cannot deny that we got to thanks to science in some way. But what is the turning point? As I said before, the turning point is the First World War, which become the First World War, and then before First World War, people have the big expectation on the science and the logic, but what happened? It's war. It's not just one war, two wars, and all also improve the massive, machinery, warship, like bomb, atomic bomb, as I said before, and it swept away the optimistic of the goodness of the science, mostly across Europe. Yeah. So the birth of postmodernism, this idea is a loss of the goodness of people and a suspicion of science, and a word of logic and order was compounded by two main events, the Second World War. Yeah, it's the birth after Second World War. Yeah, look, I said before, the Holocaust, the drop of atomic bomb, for example. And then when exactly the birth of postmodernism? It was by 1968, right? So the idea of postmodernism start to reach fruition. What is the basic differences between modernism and postmodernism? Modernists believe that people were capable of original thought, but postmodernists, the majority of the work basis its views on what is presented for them through the media is called hyperreality. Reality meditate through media. Okay, now we are living in like in hyper reality, like the movie, like superhero movies, so hyper realistic, hyper reality, like what, Marvel, like yeah, Marvel is a very close to postmodernism thought. Yeah, if you love Marvel. And then for modernists, they believe that the work of art bears a universal truth or meaning. And then, as I said before, modernists believe on the universal truth. But for postmodernists, that what is really universal truth? No, there is no. It's interpretation basis actually. Okay, here are the three theorists. We will talk about them at length. Yeah. First, we have Jean-François Lyotard, so French. Yeah. What is his basic concept? Rejection of a grand or meta narrative. So tadi yang fairy tale. So the fairy tale we talk about with the grand or meta narrative, the one who reject this concept is Jean-François Lyotard. Yeah, and he is the one with the idea. No, it's not like that. Fairy tale is not always like that. It should not be like that. You screw your kids. You dogmatize your kid. You dogmatize human being by saying that that's the grand narrative of the certain story. In this case, is for the fairy tale, right? And then the truth, therefore, needs to be deconstructed so that we can challenge the dominant idea that people claim as a truth. Now, why the story like Stinky Cheese Man exists, why the movie like Shrek exists, is as the challenge for the dominant idea that people claim as a truth. So that with the story like Stinky Cheese Man and other fairy stupid tales and Shrek, it will help other people to think, and also it will challenge the dominance idea about what is truth about fairy tales, about the story. And we also have Jean Baudrillard, again, it's French. There is no longer a distinction between reality and its representing image or simulacrum. It's hyper reality. There is only surface meaning. There is no longer any original thing from a sign to represent. A sign is the meaning. Okay, so when we want to talk about the concept of the sign or symbol, we will come back to the theory of Ferdinand de Saussure, saying that if we have a sign, or a symbol, it will goes with the meaning. That's why we have the concept of langue and parole, for example, or the letter A will sound A and it means A, right? But in hyperreality, it's not like that. Okay, I will give you the example that might be closer to you. Now, everybody has Instagram, right? Everybody has Facebook. Everybody has social media. As a matter of fact, social media that we have right now is a hyper reality. Why we call it hyper reality? Do you think it's really reality? Part of it, yes, but most of it is your interpretation. For example, when you see someone, when you stalk or you see or you scroll the status of people on Facebook or in Instagram, and then you will think, uh, for example, you scroll Instagram of someone who always post the food, a very delicious food in this restaurant with the tag, uh, at restaurant A, the photo of the food and hashtag modern food, delicious or whatever, or like belly things, like with all hashtag things. What reality come up to your idea? You will think, number one, ah, he or she always have a good food, a good meal every day. Maybe you will compare it to yourself, or poor me, I don't have good food or things like that every day. Number two, you will think like, oh, she has a lot of money, so she can do those things. Meanwhile, if you don't do that, it might be you don't have sufficient money to do it, right? That's the reality that come up to your mind. But is that the real reality? No, it's just hyper reality. As the matter of fact, if someone posts the food to Instagram, it doesn't mean that he will eat that food. It might be just a photo of somebody else he posted. But the image you catch from the status of someone on Instagram, you will think that that's her or that's him, right? So see here, it's hyper reality. And then if you on the other way, if you see someone on Facebook always update the status about the sadness, about okay, no, I don't want to say sadness, about the praying. There are some people like to update the status like, oh, thank God with the 100,000 pray, like again, it was like, I need to be closer to God, and just so religious thing. When you saw it, you have the interpretation that he or she is a religious person posting the religious words, or I don't know, hadith, or the verse of the Bible or whatever. You will have the interpretation, but is that really the reality? Is that really that he or she is religious? It's not always so. Maybe he just want to make the image of himself so that people think that he is religious, right? So yeah, is this called a hyper reality in this situation? Now, yeah, so from now on, after understanding the theory of postmodernism, so jangan baper sama, social media things. What you see is not always what you see. What you didn't see, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So, you know what I'm saying? So that's make that give us the space, to think more than what we see. That's hyper reality. Okay, next we have Frederick Jameson, 1934. So historical point of view, postmodern is a development of modernism. It's true, we said before. Postmodernist work are often characterized by lack of depth, which has been replaced by survey of surveys. Yeah, because the purpose of postmodernism is to show irony, parody, to laugh at the reality that modern people say, you know, just to make a joke of the what modern people call as a reality. Yeah. And then okay, well, when we talk about historical point, I think we mentioned before, like no, not really. Wait, I will go back. Concept. Yeah, this is some key concept. As I said, like hyperreality, hyperconsciousness, and then generic blurring, as I said before, and intertextuality and bricolage. You know, like there's no one simply interpretation, and playfulness, and such as parody and pastiche or irony or sarcasm sometimes, you know, and the depth of the represent. This is the key concept. And actually, we are living in the postmodern era, and we encounter a lot of it. Sometimes we just don't realize, you know. Yeah. I think I already repeatedly say this, you know, hypothetical inability consciousness distinguish reality and fantasy. Yeah, yeah, and then the hyper reality is well w- well performed by Marvel, you know, movie. Or Matrix, kalau dulu awal-awalnya we have Matrix, right? So now, why is postmodern useful in analysis? Why? Because we are living in that time. But moreover, as a part of your film and TV analysis, consider apa nih? Now, I want to ask you to do this. Yeah, so why is postmodern useful in analysis? It helps you to think out of the box of modern, or out of the box of current narrative. Okay, now it's the end what you have learned today. I hope you are still there. Hello, give me your voice.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank God you are not sleeping.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so after my very long and wide explanation, so do you have any question, or you have some confusion about the postmodernism, or what do you think about it? Any thought? Okay, well, now as you are, I don't know, you are encountering living in modern era in some part, because you know it doesn't mean modern doesn't exist anymore right now. It's still, but we are also living in postmodern. It's, well, anyway, postmodern and modern is not only the matter of era or timeline like Renaissance or like the Restoration, you know. It's the idea, it's the concept of idea within 20th century until the early 21st century here now. So it's basically the concept of thought which now you are living within, right? So now, if you would like to choose, which concept do you like the most, the modern or postmodern? Who likes modern? Say I.
Postmodern, ma'am.
Postmodern. Other? Modern or postmodern? Do you prefer? Postmodern. Retno say postmodern. Rizvi also said postmodernism. What about the other? Postmodernism. Ferdi answer. Modernism is the best concept because it can improve according from the era. Okay. Yeah, it can improve. Such as what happened during modern era. Thanks to modern era. Yeah, hail modern era. But it doesn't mean it's bad, you know. It's just human, you know. Postmodern. Okay, well, basically, it's not about it's not about it's A or B, you know. It's postmodern or modern. It's about something, you know, the idea which help you think more, the concept of philosophical term what happened nowadays. It's the purpose actually. It's not to say modern or modern. Okay. Yeah. So my question for your review last time, we talk about the three works, the Earth of Mankind, Shrek, and Stinky Cheeseman. So yeah, and the Earth of Mankind is clearly using the concept of what? And Shrek and Stinky Cheeseman is clearly using the concept of what? Postmodernism. Oh yeah, Verdi said reconstructional concept. Remember, I explained before what is the difference between the preposition re and de. Re is, I give you example again. If this is building, look at my hand. If this is building, if you reconstruct, you drop it and you rebuild, you reconstruct. It's the same, right? But if you deconstruct, it's like that. It's the same hand, but look, something different. It's not like this anymore. It's like this. So you construct another one with kind of different thing, but the difference has the meaning. You know, it's not this, but this because something is needed to point out. You know what I'm saying? So itu ya konsep dasarnya gitu ya. Deconstruct and reconstruct. You can also, if you are interested in, you know, the philosophical book, you can read Foucault and things like that. Oh yeah, what I want to say for you also here is that you are now studying in English education department. So mainly you have the thought that one day you will be a teacher or something like that. Maybe you don't have any idea that one day in English education department we will learn about philosophy. You will learn about literature or linguistic or something like that. But you know what? What we call the knowledge, the science in language is literature, including the philosophical theory in it, and linguistic when we learn about the language. Okay, does it mean that educational teaching learning is not the science? It's the science too. It's called applied linguistic, right? But the pure linguistic science is the linguistics, which include the phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, things, blah, 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 and the literature, science, which including the literary theory, the philosophical concept, not only in literature but also in the philosophy in general, which is implemented in literature. What I really want to tell you from here is that, guys, please, if you are English education student, your end goal of studying is not only you can speak, write, listen, and read. It's not just that. These things is basic. It's called skills. But if you want to maintain the knowledge, you need to read more, you need to expand more about what we learned in literature class, in linguistic class, in teaching and learning theory class. It's language. No, it's the science. Okay. Yeah. So if you are satisfied enough your ability to speak English as the achievement of English education student, you are totally wrong, because you just accomplished a very basic skill, which you not need to you don't need to go to English department just to know speak English. You go to course like somewhere, les-lesan itu bisa improve skill kamu. So moreover, for you as in language department, you need to know the knowledge that makes you different from people who can only speak English and people who really learn the language. You know what I'm saying? No voice.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Ya, gitu ya. Jadi harus you need to improve yourself. Harus sendiri, harus. Jadi yang disediain di kelas itu, as I said before, what is provided in the classroom through the syllabus, through the meeting like this, is a map. Whether or not you arrive to the place depends on whether or not you move your leg, you step your feet, you read, you learn, you watch, or whatever to help you to go on the map. Okay, so I think that's all, and that's all for the material. And then, as I said, next week we will have a quiz, and about our project for final exam project. How many class we are? Are we 6, right? It's amazing. 6
Yes,
classes.
ma'am.
I just have 46 students. So amazing. It's okay. Waktu itu saya bilangnya bikin per ira ya, kayak timeline. Terus kan saya bilang kayaknya susah ya, soalnya it's more complex, and it will be good if we have offline class, but we won't have it. Jadi untuk detailnya ntar saya itu aja, saya chat aja. Jadi saya bisa tulis one by one, step by step you need to do, so it's clearer. And if you have question, you can post under it. So for the last information, please well prepare for next week quiz. What will be in the next week quiz is more about the material we have learned during semester, starting from Old English, medieval era, Renaissance, neoclassical, Restoration, Victorian, until today. And then it's a pop quiz, so it's kind of quick. So you don't have a time to look back your material, because I hope those questions you have already had in your mind if you follow the material every week carefully, just follow the class, listen to me, and then try to think if it's going to be easy actually, unless if you don't follow at all, so you will get lost. So it will be pop-up quiz. As I said before, I don't know, it will be with quizzes at Mondo or Kahoot, but it will be one of it. So you work by yourself so quickly, and it will be part of the quizzes score. One more thing, don't forget to fill the apa itu asik and the G form that I sent to you, because I will see your participation. Like, well, I remember Rizvi, Ferdi, like Retno, for example, because they are quite active in every meeting, so I remember, right? But for you who participate once and disappear 3 centuries later, so it's gonna be hard for me. For example, like Ewi, she was active in the beginning, but now I didn't see she's really participate anymore. So I need to see the record of the participation, and I hope you feel it consistently bi-weekly. Not bi-weekly. Any question? Any question, yes or no? No, ma'am. Okay. Yeah, good student has no question. Okay. No, ma'am. Okay. So if you have no question, please be well prepared and stay tuned. Stay tuned. Yeah, so keep alert on the Facebook announcement. And see you. Happy New Year's. Bye bye.
See you,
See you,
ma'am.
ma'am. Happy New Year. Thank you.
See you, ma'am. Happy New Year.
See you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.